Laptop cooling pads come in various shapes and sizes. Some are smaller, some are much bigger. However, the real question is, do they actually work? The short answer is, it depends. And the long answer is, well, you just have to keep watching the video. If you're not new to the channel, then you'll know that I've tested over 6 different laptop cooling pads with varying levels of success when it comes to effectiveness. I've been testing out a new laptop cooling pad over the last couple of months, and all I can say is, this thing has blown me away. A while back, I made a video about the Lano laptop cooling pad and how it might be the most effective cooling pad I had used so far. But I was wrong. KLIM definitely took that as a challenge, and not long after my video, they offered me the chance to try out their newest invention, the KLIM Turbofrost. Brief disclaimer, this video was sponsored by KLIM. However, all thoughts and opinions expressed in the video are solely mine.
Stop the cap!
The Turbofrost comes with 4 powerful cooling fans that each have a maximum speed of 4,000 RPM. Now, if you take a look at this cooling pad on Amazon, you might notice that the listing says it has up to 16,000 RPM worth of cooling.
Sensational.
I know this might sound really exciting and even a little confusing, as 16,000 RPM is a lot of power for one cooling pad to have, especially one that's this small. But if you read the listing a little further, the truth is the KLIM Turbofrost features 4 individual fans that each go up to a maximum of 4,000 RPM, and to be honest, that on its own is pretty impressive. However, when you turn on the cooling pad, the maximum speed you can achieve is 4,000 RPM, or at least that's what it shows on the screen. So you might be wondering, where does the claim of 16,000 RPMs come from? Well, let's do a little math real quick.
2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3, quick maths.
I believe what's meant by 16,000 RPM is the combined force of all 4 fans. 4 fans at 4,000 RPM each equals 16,000 RPM. Right? Well, I'm not sure that's exactly how it works, to be honest, but let me know what you think in the comment section below. That aside, I think what matters more than the exact RPM value is the effectiveness of the cooling pad, and the Turbofrost is definitely effective. I started off with some benchmarks and gaming tests, but before that, I wanted to show you the normal temperature readings I usually get on my Legion 5 at room temperature, without the cooling pad turned on, of course. Starting off with the GPU temperature, it usually sits at around 58 degrees Celsius when performing day-to-day activities. And as for the CPU temperature, it normally sits at around 65 degrees Celsius. I proceeded to play FC24 for about 30 minutes with the cooling pad turned off, getting an average GPU temperature of about 86 degrees Celsius and an average CPU temperature of about 92 degrees Celsius. Then I turned on the cooling pad and set it at 3000 RPM, as I found this to be the sweet spot between performance and noise production. And make sure you keep watching because there's going to be a noise test later on in the video. Back to the gaming test. I noticed that within a couple of minutes, the GPU temperature dropped to 77 degrees Celsius, which is a 10-degree drop, and the CPU temperature dropped to 80 degrees Celsius, which is a 12-degree drop. I then increased the RPM of the cooling pad to 4,000 for about 15 minutes, and the GPU temperature went down to 75 degrees Celsius, while the CPU temperature was 78 degrees Celsius. I also ran this test again while playing GTA 5 for around 30 minutes, and I noticed pretty much the same results. Moving on to the benchmarks, I started off with the Firmark benchmark test, and after a couple of minutes, my laptop reached a peak GPU temperature of around 83 degrees Celsius and a peak CPU temperature of around 95 degrees Celsius. Then I turned on the cooling pad and set the speed to 3000 RPMs once again. The GPU temperature dropped down to about 77 degrees within a few seconds, and then it slowly continued to trickle down to around 75 degrees, showing a drop in GPU temperature by around 8 degrees Celsius. The CPU temperature, on the other hand, dropped down to about 83 degrees Celsius within a few seconds, and then it slowly went down to around 80 degrees Celsius, showing a drop in CPU temperature by around 15 degrees Celsius. Before we move on, if you're still watching the video at this point, then you are super cool. Leave this emoji in the comment section below to let me know you made it this far. And if you've been enjoying the video, then maybe consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Before we get to the noise test, let's quickly take a look at what you get in the box. When I opened up the box, the first thing I got was the instruction manual. After that, I saw some replacement dust filters, which is a very nice addition as we all know how much havoc dust can wreak on your laptop's fans. These filters help prevent dust from getting into the cooling pad and by extension into your laptop. You can turn the cooling pad upside down and easily replace the dust filters whenever they get too dirty. You also get a USB-A to USB-C cable, these metal stoppers, a nice black envelope containing some stickers and a poster introducing the KLIM team with a short comic behind it. Next up is the power adapter, and finally the cooling pad itself. The build quality is quite sturdy, with minimal to no flexing with the ABS frame. And one of the first things you'll notice is the foam lip surrounding the top. The foam is attached by magnets and it has a secondary cutout which you can remove if you have a larger laptop up to 17.3 inches, or you can keep it in place if you have a smaller laptop. For example, a 14-inch MacBook. Going underneath the cooling pad for a moment, we don't get individual adjustable legs like we saw with the KLIM Everest, but rather there's this single metal stand with a varying angle locking system. It feels pretty solid, but I know some people might prefer the individual adjustable feet. We also have this compartment which houses the intake vent and the dust filter which we spoke about earlier. It's easily accessible and makes cleaning the intake vent or replacing the filter quite straightforward. Once you plug in the cooling pad, you can then turn your attention to the little screen at the bottom and the 5 buttons surrounding it. Starting from the left, the first button is the power button, so you just press that to turn on the cooling pad. Beside the power button, you have the buttons to increase and decrease the fan speed. And on the right side of the screen, you have the button to change the RGB colors, and then the last button, which when pressed, cycles through the different RGB backlighting modes. The Turbofrost has a 360-degree LED strip, which features up to 65 different light modes. So the only limit when it comes to customization is your imagination. One unique thing about the Turbofrost, which I find very useful, is the fact that you can power it using either the included wall plug or the 5-volt USB-C port located at the back. Of course, if you're powering the cooling pad using your laptop and the USB-C port, the cooling pad draws less power, meaning it maxes out at around 3000 RPM instead of 4000. However, I think the fact that you're able to switch between using the wall plug or the USB-C port makes the Turbofrost ideal for situations where there is no available wall outlet and you need to cool your laptop ASAP. Or if you just want to take your laptop away from your desk and go work somewhere else. Still at the back, beside the 5-volt USB-C in port, there are 3 USB-A out ports which you can use to plug in your peripherals like your mouse or your keyboard. In the front, you have some slots which you can insert the metal stoppers in order to hold your laptop in place. On the screen, you can see the current fan speed. You can also see the KLIM logo and a numerical indicator for what RGB mode it is currently set to. By default, it would be on 1, but as you press the last button on the right and cycle through different modes, the number shown on the indicator changes as well. The fans are located in this chamber underneath this aluminum cover plate, which the folks at KLIM so kindly engraved with my logo. The cover plate primarily serves the purpose of passive cooling, and underneath the cover plate we have 4 individual fans which share the workload of cooling the laptop. The air generated by the fans is funneled through these vents, and thanks to the foam padding we saw earlier, a pressure chamber is created and all the cool air is directed into the intake vents at the bottom of your laptop. As you can see from how well the fans blow this piece of paper, they're actually quite strong. This is what you can expect from the fans at 1500 RPM. And this is what you can expect from the fans at 4000 RPM. The pressure chamber also serves to reduce noise, as when your laptop is placed on the cooling pad and the chamber is sealed properly, it prevents air, and by extension, sound, from escaping. Of course, this doesn't mean the Turbofrost is entirely quiet, and you know what? Let's just head right into the sound test. As you could probably tell, the Jeez, it's so hard to say. As you could probably tell, the Turbofrost does produce quite a bit of noise, but it's nowhere near as loud as what you would get from some other cooling pads like the Lano laptop cooler I reviewed a couple of months ago. The Turbofrost is smaller and lighter while being just as powerful. So I think it's pretty clear which laptop cooler is better. Okay, now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, it's time to answer the question that probably brought you to this video, and that is, do laptop cooling pads actually work? Well, if you've watched the video to this point, then I think you've probably gotten your answer already. And if you've decided to actually get a laptop cooling pad, then which one is right for you? The Turbofrost comes in at about $90, and while it's a little on the more expensive side, you can be confident that this cooling pad will significantly drop the temperature of your laptop, and you will never have to worry about it overheating ever again. Of course, there are cheaper alternatives. However, what I would say is, when it comes to buying such an important accessory for your laptop, it's always much better to buy it nice than buy it twice. And if you're really interested in getting the KLIM Turbofrost, then you can check out the link in the description below for where you can purchase it for the best price right now. Let me know what you think about this laptop cooling pad in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, then please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And you can also check out any of my other videos in this playlist. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.